Hello and welcome to this episode of Great Conversations. I'm very excited to be here today with Detective Benny Alvarado, who works here at, of course, with our Brick Police Department, but he's also an SRO at Brick Memorial High School. And I'm here also with Sam West, who is our SAC at the Brick Memorial High School as well. And just really quick, can you tell the public what a SAC is? Yes. I know what it is from school, but just
a lot of
know.
Misconceptions. So SAC stands for Student Assistance Counselor, and we are exclusive to New Jersey. And we work with substance policy cases in the schools. We work on mental health resources, referral, and some of us work on the HIB laws.
Right. Fantastic. So now we know what everybody does here. This is great. But I'm really excited more so to talk about a program that you run out of Brick Memorial called the Juvenile Justice Jeopardy. And you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, Sam actually is the the ringleader of this program. So she could, if you want to start it off.
Yeah, so Juvenile Justice Jeopardy was brought to us by Ocean County Prosecutor's Office, and it was brought to them by Strategies for Youth, which is a company nationally based out of Cambridge, Massachusetts, and essentially their team puts together Jeopardy games, just like your classic Jeopardy. It has 5 categories, depending on the game, and each category has something to do in context with how the juvenile should be interacting with police, some examples of scenarios, the laws, how they can access or keep their juvenile records, and situations of that nature.
Oh, that's interesting. So what would a typical class look like if you guys were going to, you said you work with health classes, right? So
Yes.
You're working with health classes, like what would a typical lesson look like? Or if you got together to talk with the kids, what would that look like?
Well, honestly, it would be around from 20 to 30 students. It'd be in a hall. It's basically a bigger classroom. And we just engage with them. We'll put up the Jeopardy game. We'll have the first column will be law, juvenile law, and then there'll be 4 teams or 3 teams. All depends on how many students we have, and then we just go, all right, for 100 points, this is the question. They don't get it right, so we go to the next group. If they get it right, then they get the money. So they get the points. I'm sorry, not the money.
Oh my God, they would love the money.
Yeah.
That would be a packed class.
For sure.
We actually we kick off the day. We basically decided that it would be run best over the course of 4 days. So we're actually in the classrooms 4 consecutive days. The first day will just consist of some handouts. There is a pre and post test that is created by Strategies for Youth as an assessment for their knowledge to begin with. So we hand that out, and then we will give out what's called an at what age worksheet.
Yes.
It's a handout that gives certain scenarios such as purchasing or possessing firearms, possessing and purchasing, well, you're not allowed to possess marijuana, period, but purchasing marijuana, alcohol, and different scenarios, driver's license, renting a car, and they guess what age, and then we go over the answers.
Yeah, so what are some of the other things that you guys go into? So I know we talked a little bit about how to deal with police officers if you get into trouble. So so what's some of that look like?
Actually, we have two scenarios that I become the students, the juveniles, and the juveniles they're the cops, the police officers. So I will act how they will act in the street. And afterwards, they're like, wow, we were nervous the way you were acting. And I tell them, listen, this is how some juveniles act. And this is every day that I deal with juveniles like this. And they're like, wow, it's very nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
We actually request 2 volunteers to come down, and we're provided with police hats that they put on, and you can visibly see how uncomfortable some of them are.
Like how should it be dealt with? Like what would it look like?
And Detective Alvarado will kind of exhibit aggressive behaviors and how they kind of respond to that. So it really helps to bridge the gap between what a youth thinks a cop does and what a cop actually has to deal with when they don't know what they're dealing with.
Right.
One of the biggest things is when you're trying to speak to a juvenile and they got their phone and they're trying to call their mother and they're not listening to the police officers and, we're trying to get information from them, and they're acting like erratic, and so that's how I perceive myself to be, and I'm herking and jerking and everything.
Yeah.
And they're like getting all worried and scared. So that's one scenario. The other scenario is when they're interacting with a police officer that is very disrespectful, assuming things that it's not true, and the juveniles would take it to heart and be like, they don't want to talk to the police officer. There's certain ways you could deal with that. Be respectful. Just think, stay calm, because eventually the interaction is going to stop.
Right.
And then if you feel like your rights were violated or anything like that, you could come to the police department.
Right.
And we actually tell them that. And one of the biggest things that we tell them is, what does every cop have? What does every police officer have? A body-worn camera.
Right. Right.
So, but also told them, listen, if you're going to say that a police officer was disrespectful to you and violated your rights, you better be sure, because if you do a police report and you're lying about it, you can get charged as well.
Okay.
So they now,
Yeah, especially if it's on camera now, everybody,
Absolutely.
you can see how both parties are acting.
And it teaches them how to not make a potentially bad situation worse.
Right.
Yeah. So
and we were saying too, we're kind of, you guys are in the forefront of working with our kids in prevention, right? And figuring out how do we get our kids ready for adulthood and prepared for that and doing things the right way. And they're not always going to be in Brick Township. We have great police officers here. And so if they go off to college or if they go off traveling somewhere, having these rules in their mind are really helpful, in other places and situations.
Right. And one of the biggest things too is like, if God forbid a juvenile does get in trouble, they get arrested. There's two words. It's convicted of a crime and there's adjudicated of a crime. And we try to explain to them what's adjudicated. Basically, it's the same word as convicted, but it's a nicer word when you go to college or if you going for a job application. Right. Have you ever been convicted of a crime? You say no. Right. Because you wasn't convicted, you were adjudicated. Okay. So there's stuff like that you we try to teach them, and they're like, oh wow, okay, cool, thanks, you know. So
we also touch on the recent change in the law regarding marijuana and how there's often a discrepancy between how that's handled at the school and how that's handled on the law enforcement side, and how the school actually has a little more power and jurisdiction over something like that. So Detective Alvarado will touch on what those warnings look like, and I will then touch on the substance policy and what, suspension looks like in school.
Right, because policies in school don't match law necessarily. They can make up their own rules about what they allow.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. Like with if a juvenile does get caught with marijuana, well, we don't do anything now. What we do is out in the street, we catch you with some marijuana, we'll just call the parent. Right. Ma'am, ma'am or sir, your son or daughter or child was in possession of some marijuana. This is just a warning. So it's just a warning. And now
it's like if you caught them with cigarettes back in the day, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So now they're like, oh, okay. Oh, all right. Like,
maybe they didn't know. Maybe they didn't know. Yeah.
I just the reason why we explain this to them, because okay, you have some marijuana on you. You don't have to run. You don't have to try to fight with a police officer.
You don't have to make a bad situation worse.
Absolutely. Yeah. So and they're like, okay. And I tell them, listen, you don't have to run. Even if you're drinking alcohol, or if you get caught possessing alcohol, don't run. Don't run, because now it's going to make the situation worse. Right. You're not going to get in trouble. You're just going to call your parents. Right. So they're pretty. They understand it now.
Right. I think building that relationship with the students here in Brick Township, with our police department, that's a big piece of our community policing. Yes. And making sure that we have those bonds and relationships built so that we can avoid having people run and get
Yes,
into more
ma'am.
trouble or do something worse. They know, they see our police more as friends, people that they can turn to for
Right.
help. They're not afraid of, and I think that's really a
Yeah.
big thing. And I know you work too. I know we're talking about the Juvenile Justice Jeopardy, but I know you also work with like the police camp.
Yes.
So we have lots of opportunities for our kids here in town to build up those relationships and feel confident about, working with the police,
For
right?
sure. Like today, I went to Vets Middle School, and there was a group like 7 kids. Hey Benny, hey Benny.
Yeah.
And the guy was like,
How do they know
him?"
you?
All of them were police camp. So it's pretty good. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. It's fantastic. I love seeing at events when the police are there that a lot of times the kids will say hello to you or say hello to the other officers that are there because we've had that opportunity to build that relationship.
100%. I love it.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. So
It is.
important.
It is important.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you guys want to tell us about the program?
I mean, I think it's just really important. One thing that I love about it is that it is adaptable to your school. You don't have to follow the strict guidelines of it. We have incorporated clips from a Netflix show called Flint,
Yes.
Michigan,
Mhm.
and it's about the police force in Flint, Michigan,
Mhm.
and it collaborates so well with the questions. So we review how to behave or not behave at a traffic stop and things like that.
Mhm.
We cover what a family court is. We cover what it looks like in scenarios when you get pulled over. Do you have to give the police your name in certain situations? So,
The other thing is, I want to thank Ocean County Prosecutor's Office
yeah,
for bringing this.
Right.
yeah,
And also there have been like, how can I say it? They have been supporting us with this program. They also, Anthony Piero is one of the biggest contributors.
Mhm.
So I wanted to thank him too, because without him and without Ocean County Prosecutor's Office, we would have never had this program.
Right.
And
Yeah.
he sat with Strategies for Youth and hand-selected questions,
Right.
and worked that out specific to our communities in
Right.
Ocean County.
Yeah, it's important that we know that it's tailored to what
Yeah.
our kids would necessarily deal with here.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so that's really great.
Yeah.
Oh, I really appreciate you guys coming in today and talking about this. And
Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
And you're at Brick Memorial.
Yes.
There is the same program is run at Brick Township High School as well, just with
Yes.
different people. But we had Detective Alvarado here in Town Hall, and I wanted to have the opportunity to speak with you.
Oh, thank you very
And
much.
I think that it's super important that we continue the program, and I appreciate you coming in and talking about it.
Yeah,
Thank you
you
very
for
much
having
for
us.
us.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.